Warning! Kinda Murdery contains adult themes, explicit language, and descriptions of violence. It is not suitable for anyone, and we recommend you stop listening now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Kinda Murdery, a true crime podcast that's mostly about murder, and always about the strange and compelling stories that arise when the path less traveled twists to darkness, and those who walk its shadows surrender to violence and corruption. I'm your host, Zevon Odelberg, and we have a perilous journey ahead, so thank you for lending me your courage and good company. I'd like to start out by saying that I'm grateful for the easy comfort of being here with you on this cool and blustery November Thursday. I recently got pretty nasty whiplash from riding roller coasters with the kids around Halloween. It's been a nightmare. It really only hurts when I try to lie down, but it hurts a lot, which means I can't really sleep, and I'm awfully cranky. My family, bless them, have been incredibly patient with me, and I'd like to thank all of you in the Kinda Murdery community, because having these podcasts to make for us to share together is one of the few things that cuts through my general physical misery right now. So yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Before we get started, I should tell you that my sources for today's episode are included in the show notes. Special thanks to an article by Benjamin H. Smith published on November 6th, 2022 on Oxygen.com. The Oxygen Network has a lot of great true crime content, and if you enjoy today's story, I suggest you check out the series Snapped, Sundays at 6/5 Central on Oxygen. And even if it sounded like one, that wasn't an advertisement. Kinda Murdery is not sponsored by Oxygen, although if Oxygen is listening, we'd love to be sponsored by you. It's not a paid plug, I just have to give credit where credit is due. I figure if someone else's show inspires me to tell a story, the least I can do is recommend that you watch the show. Also central to my research for today's episode were primary sourced court filings pertaining to the crimes that I'll be revealing shortly. Again, links to all sources are in the show notes. What follows is the story of Judy Naylor McPhail. Judy had many demons: drug addiction, mental health issues, possible narcissistic personality disorder. Growing up, her father was an alcoholic, and her mother struggled with her own mental health. Now, I am not a licensed psychiatrist, and I make no claim to any credentials or expertise. Nevertheless, as a certified armchair pop psychologist, it seems to me that we find ourselves pondering the tragically all too common chicken and the egg dichotomy of addiction and mental health, meaning it's difficult to determine whether Judy turned to drugs as a means to cope with the symptoms of her mental health challenges, or whether those challenges were created, or at least greatly exacerbated, by her addiction. The truth is likely some combination of both, which I'm sure many of you know is the heart-rending reality for a large number of addicts. Either way, addiction and the high cost of feeding that addiction appears to have been the central driving force of Judy's adult life and many tragic decisions that she would make. As you know, if you've listened to the show before, mental health, substance use, and self-harm are not only human issues that are important to Kinda Murdery, they're also very important to this particular story, which does contain all three, so fair warning there. Having taken that warning into account, if you're still ready to proceed, then I suggest you put your personal items underneath the seat in front of you. Stow your carry-on in the overhead compartment. Let go of the cares of the day, but be sure your seatbelt is fastened. There's turbulence expected ahead. Relentless Need, the Judy Naylor McPhail story, starts now. Judy Naylor wanted money badly. She needed money badly. The monkey on her back demanded to be fed, and it was always hungry. So hungry, in fact, that Judy was caught up in murder plots not once, but twice. Actually, caught up is less than accurate. The truth is, Judy masterminded murder plots not once, but twice, committing a second murder while out on parole for the first, and, saddest of all, the victims she targeted were two of the very few people in her life that offered Judy Naylor stability and showed her kindness. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. Judy was born in 1965 and grew up around Robeson and Cumberland counties in North Carolina. She had a troubled home life. While she was close with her younger brother Kenneth, her father had a drinking problem, and her mother struggled with mental illness. She dropped out of school at 17 and moved away from home. When she was 19, Judy had a child with then 24-year-old Andrew San Miguel, who was in the U.S. Air Force. They married but split up when their son Michael was 2. She eventually got full custody of Michael and supported herself working in the automotive industry. The single mother and son often lived with Judy's mother Catherine and her new stepfather, a man named James Croxton. Years passed and Michael moved away after graduating high school in 2002. Soon after, Judy began dating 47-year-old Donald Lee McPhail, whom she married after dating for 6 months. There were changes in her professional life, too. In 2003, Judy got a job as an office manager at Absolute Bus Sales in Lumberton, North Carolina, eventually taking over the bookkeeping. The company was owned by Craig Hartman, who lived on site in an apartment above the business. On January 12, 2004, Craig Hartman returned from an out-of-country vacation to his home and business at 1173 Kendrick Road in Lumberton, North Carolina. Hartman was shot as he attempted to step outside of his vehicle. He subsequently determined that the checkbooks for his business and a shotgun that he kept in his bedroom closet in the apartment above his business were missing. Days after the attack, Hartman called authorities in a panic. He said he was unable to get in touch with Judy, who he left in charge while he was away. Hartman feared she had somehow gotten caught up in the attempt on his life. The next day, he called the police again to report missing items from his home. Hartman employed Judy as his secretary, and following the attack, he learned she had not been into work for a few days. Judy took care of all of the clerical aspects of Hartman's business, including payroll. She had permission to write checks for the business, but only Hartman was authorized to sign the checks. After the attack, Hartman went to his banks, RBC Centura and Lumbee Guarantee Bank in Lumberton, to check his bank records. He determined that a total of 21 checks that he either didn't write, sign, or authorize were cashed against his accounts with RBC Centura or Lumbee Guarantee Bank. Hartman signed affidavits of forgery regarding these checks. The checks were cashed between December 31, 2003 and January 9, 2004, during the time Hartman was on vacation, and they were cashed for amounts ranging from $120 to $6,500. 18 of the checks were made out to Judy Naylor, and 3 of the checks were made out to her husband, Donald McPhail. Further investigation by the Robeson County Sheriff's Office led to the arrest of Judy Naylor and her husband, Donald, on charges of felony conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, forgery of endorsements, and uttering forged instruments. Put more simply, forging checks and using said forged checks, cashing them. Authorities had a hard time tracking down the couple since they moved between the homes of their parents, but they soon discovered Judy had a long history of petty theft, property damage, and drug arrests. Said Cumberland County Sheriff Sergeant Larry Trotter, Judy always had a rocky relationship with her mother from all accounts. There were reports of physical assaults on her mother because of her drug habits and because of her stealing from the family. Authorities even learned that in December of 2003, just weeks before the attempted murder of Hartman, Judy had been accused of stealing $7,000 in jewelry from her stepfather, James Croxton. She was arrested, but charges were eventually dropped because her mother, Catherine, and her stepfather, James, didn't want to pursue the charges. Next, on January 26, 2004, some 2 weeks after the attempted murder of Hartman, an employee at a Motel 6 in Robeson County called 911 to report a disturbance in one of their rooms. Upon arrival, deputies discovered Judy and Donald McPhail. Judy was sick on the floor. Said Cumberland County District Attorney Billy West, she tried to harm herself, kill herself, by drinking antifreeze. After recovering from her suicide attempt, Judy Naylor McPhail was released from the hospital. She met with detectives and admitted to stealing from her work in order to pay for her and her husband's drug habits. She said they planned to kill Hartman in order to avoid detection. Judy and her husband Donald are both charged with attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, larceny of a firearm, and fraud. Despite her confession, Judy pled not guilty. Under questioning, Donald McPhail immediately confessed to a laundry list of crimes. Donald admitted his involvement in the attempted murder of Judy's boss. He admitted to stealing the gun. He admitted to writing the fraudulent checks. and he admitted that he was the one that pulled the trigger that almost killed Hartman. Both Donald and Judy were incarcerated pending trial, and Judy's bail was set at $4,500. Donald McPhail pleaded guilty to the attempted murder of Craig Hartman and other related charges, and was sentenced to 13 years in prison, according to a local newspaper, the Robesonian. Despite her confession, however, Judy pleaded not guilty to the charges. She was granted bail but was unable to pay it. Her family ties were limited at this point. While incarcerated, her mother died of an aneurysm. Meanwhile, Croxton was suffering from early onset Alzheimer's disease. In 2006, Judy was acquitted of the attempted murder of Craig Hartman, but found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and fraud, and was sentenced to 16 to 20 years in prison. The jury's decision regarding Judy's fate left Craig Hartman perplexed. He didn't understand why the jury failed to convict his former employee of trying to kill him 2 years before. "I just don't understand the jury's decision," Hartman said. "They followed me and shot at me 3 times when I attempted to get out of the car. I have a herniated disc, and I got out of the car slowly, and that probably saved my life. The buckshot missed me by about 3 inches. I feel like she got away with it," Hartman said. "What do you have to do to be convicted of attempted murder?" She wrote out a statement saying that she planned to do it. "I was pretty shaken up for 2 or 3 months, but eventually I got over it." Tiffany Powers, Judy McPhail's defense lawyer, said her client contends that her husband pulled the trigger and that it was his idea. "I think the jury's verdict was very reasoned, and I can absolutely respect their decision," Powers said. The trial was originally set for September of 2005, but was delayed after Judy McPhail attempted to kill herself while in the Cumberland County Jail. Assistant District Attorney Martha Duvall said that she thought the sentence was appropriate. "From the best we can tell," she said, "the husband took the firearm and the husband was the shooter. I believe justice was served by the verdict because Judy still got the same amount of time she would have gotten for attempted murder, 16 to 20 years in prison." Meanwhile, Judy was still facing another murder charge in an unrelated case. But was it really unrelated? In a legal sense, perhaps yes. But when considering the story of Judy Naylor McPhail's life, the second murder charge was, in fact, very much related. After receiving a life insurance payout of $43,000, Judy's stepfather, James Croxton, had agreed to pay Judy's $4,500 bail back in 2004, and she was released from jail in May of that year. She then moved in with him at his home in Hope Mills, North Carolina. But Judy Naylor McPhail had a very strange way of showing her gratitude. On December 14th, 2004, Judy called 911 and said Croxton was unresponsive in bed. Paramedics arrived to find him dead at age 62. Less than an hour later, the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office received a phone call from Judy's stepmother, Donna Naylor, who was married to Judy's biological father. Donna Naylor said, "If James Croxton is deceased, then Judy Naylor did it." Donna told the police that Judy put herself in a position to take advantage of Mr. Croxton. She moved in with him. She lived rent-free. The stepmother even claimed that Judy had an intimate relationship with him, and bragged, and this is a bit stomach-churning, of having an intimate relationship with him in her mother's bed, no less. Authorities traveled to Croxton's home and treated it as a potential crime scene. They found computer printouts of articles on autopsies and death investigations, as well as sample wills, and what appeared to be someone trying to copy Croxton's signature on tracing paper. Judy's stepmother, Donna Naylor, supplied investigators with letters that Judy had written to her brother Kenneth while he was incarcerated. In these letters, she expressed her intention to murder Croxton in order to get her mother's insurance money. She made it known to Kenneth that there were chemicals she was going to use. She told him, in a few months, he, meaning Croxton, is going to be dead. Judy's son, Michael San Miguel, also contacted authorities, disturbed by a conversation with his mother just before the death of his grandfather. She said to him, "You know your grandfather's not going to be here much longer." And he replied, "Well, what do you mean?" His mother then showed him a bottle of chloroform. When he asked why she had it, she told him, "Don't worry about it. A week or 2 later, I got the phone call. your grandfather's dead. And immediately, I was like, holy shit, she killed him, San Miguel said. An autopsy revealed that there was a fatal amount of chloroform in Croxton's blood. Investigators discovered that weeks before Croxton's death, his credit cards had been used to purchase chloroform, which was sent to the home he shared with Judy. A will dated 2004 left all of Croxton's possessions to Judy and was notarized electronically by her cousin. Judy Naylor McPhail was ultimately arrested and charged with the murder of James Croxton. In April 2007, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in the death of James Croxton and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility for parole. Let's be crystal clear about this. Judy Naylor attempted to murder her boss, who trusted her so much that he granted her the ability to write company checks. She attempted to murder him for drug money. Then, after her suicide attempt, she went on to murder her stepfather, the man who had been kind enough to bail her out of jail. Again, these murders were motivated by drug money. You see, Judy Naylor McPhail had a relentless need. For this entire story, we've been speaking directly to the subjects of substance use, mental health, and suicidal thoughts and actions. And so, this feels like an appropriate time to remind you, as I often do, of the free 3-digit lifeline number 988 that you can call 24 hours, 7 days a week to receive immediate counseling for substance use, mental health, and suicidal thoughts. If you're in crisis, please dial 988. That's 988. Program it into your phone. And please, I beg you, never forget that you are loved and the world is a far better place when you're in it. If you're not in crisis, but you'd just like to connect with someone, if you feel like that could ease the burden a bit, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. kindamurdery@gmail.com. I'm here, I care, and I would love to hear from you. And even though everyone's challenges are unique, as much as I can without walking in your shoes, I promise that in my own way, I understand what you're going through. And while some things may never be okay, you are by definition so much stronger than your demons. After all, they're your demons. They belong to you. You do not belong to them. Alright, thank you for giving me a moment to talk about that. And also, as you know, I have cerebral palsy and my wife has fibromyalgia. And I would just like to shout out Emily Plowfield from Cincinnati, Ohio, from reaching out to say that she loves the show and also for sharing that she too lives with fibromyalgia. Emily will be our next Kinda Murdery full-color vinyl sticker recipient. If you'd like a sticker too, all you have to do is send your address to kindamurdery@gmail.com and I will be more than happy to send them to you. Also, if Kinda Murdery is something you look forward to, it would mean a lot to me if you went to your favorite podcast platform and left a 5-star review. I can't wait to see you again this Sunday, November 13th, for another Kinda Murdery story. And with that, I say goodbye. I'm Zevon Odelberg. And this has been Kinda Murdery. See you Sunday.